It's 4:30 on January 6th, and we're ready to begin our regular meeting, and we'll begin with the pledge and the prayer.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord God, we bow our unworthy head before you this afternoon, Father, and thank you for this time, God. Thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to work with our schools and for our schools, dear Heavenly Father. Ask your blessings on this meeting. Just lead, guide, and direct. Father, help us make the right decisions, Father, as we go forward, Lord, for the benefit of our community and our students, Lord, and our faculty, God. We just ask your blessings on each of them, Lord. Lead, guide, and direct us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. (4:31), I call the meeting to order. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions?
The only addition would be a name that came to us, I believe, today as a tutor for the after-school program. I've shared that with you already. I don't believe that there is anything else to add at this minute.
Okay, then what I'll do is ask for a motion to approve the agenda, and then we'll go to the approval of the consent agenda. We'll add that on.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition outlined by the superintendent?
Motion on that.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion passes.
If I could make a recommendation, Cody, that we just go ahead and start working through the agenda, and then at 5 o'clock pause so that we can have conversation with the folks from Schneider Electric, because they have that at 5 o'clock on their schedule.
Okay.
Is that all right?
All right.
Okay.
Can you help keep track of time? Just wave your hand to do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
To start with this evening, I guess it's afternoon, not evening, Miss Sneed's going to come and talk about CTE month and all the amazing things that are happening. While she's walking up here, I'm just going to brag on her and particularly her program and the people she works with. And the reason is, she told me this week that she was in a conversation with someone, I don't remember who has an incredibly large CTE program, a high school of 5,000.
Yes.
The CTE program in numbers absolutely dwarfs Swain County. I mean, think about it, it's 10 times as big, right? And that particular either principal or high school director, a high school CTE director, said that Swain County's CTE is more advanced than that particular program in that large high school. That is a credit to Ms. Sneed and all the people who have come before her, as well as her staff. So you didn't know I was going to do that, so there you go.
Thank you. Good evening. February is Career and Technical Education Month, a time to recognize the incredible impact of CTE programs in preparing our students for successful futures. Here in Swain County, we are proud to offer a diverse range of CTE pathways that equip our students with the skills, knowledge, and experiences they need to thrive, whether they're entering the workforce, pursuing higher education, or starting their own businesses. I want to take a moment to recognize our outstanding CTE teachers who bring passion and expertise into their classrooms every day. From Carla's drafting students designing future buildings to Derek's carpentry students constructing real-world projects, from Buck's welders mastering precision to Brian's Adobe students bringing creativity to life, our educators are shaping the next generation of skilled professionals. Toby, Danny, Sean, Cindy, Becca, Robin, Richard, John, and Savannah each play a crucial role in preparing our students for bright futures. And speaking of students, their success stories are what makes CTE so powerful. Whether it's a student earning a industry-recognized certification, landing a competitive scholarship or job, or using CTE skills to serve our community, their achievements prove that hands-on learning has a lasting impact. In fact, tomorrow, Swain has 33 students traveling to compete at the North Carolina Regional Skills USA competition that takes place at Blue Ridge Community College. And at the end of March, Swain High has 11 students competing at the North Carolina HOSA State competition. Of course, none of this would be possible without the unwavering support of this board and our community. Your investment in CTE programs and partnerships opens doors of opportunity for our students. On behalf of our teachers and our students, thank you for believing in the power of CTE. Together, we are not just preparing students for jobs, we're preparing them for a lifelong success. Happy CTE Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Barb before she runs away? She's not one that likes to stand in the spotlight.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Miss Treadway has two items that she wants to bring to you. One has to do with our annual audit contract. I think that we have to approve that each year. And then after that, she's going to talk to you all about a pretty important opportunity for us to upgrade our automobile fleet for our staff to use, okay? Stephanie, come on and inform us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So the first item is the audit contract. Anderson Smith White has done our audit for the last 2 years. And so I'm bringing to you the contract for our fiscal year ending June 30, 2025. As part of that contract, the annual contract rate would be $35,000, which is $500 more than last year's. Last year's was $34,500. And so I will be asking for your approval in the action items for that audit contract. They're set to, if approved, begin compliance work in March. So we always begin our compliance work before year end for all of our single audit federal programs. And then they'll come back in September for our final field work. Any questions on that? The next item is we were wanting to talk to you about pursuing the lease program through Enterprise, where we would lease a fleet of vehicles to help replace some of our old aging vehicles that we have in our fleet currently. We'd be looking at replacing just the vehicles that we primarily use for staff to go to training. So these would be vehicles that would be mostly going beyond Asheville. Sometimes we also use these vehicles to transport students. If we only have a few students that are going somewhere, then we would also be using these vehicles because we can transport students either in a bus or a private passenger vehicle, but we cannot use like our 15-passenger van. So as part of this, we will be looking to upgrade and provide new vehicles.
Just in time.
Yes, thank you. If I can make this work. Oh, here we go. Okay, so our key objectives when we were looking at this, and also I want to also say that Mitch has been in on some of the conversations, RL has been in on the conversations, and Casey has also been in on the conversations with Enterprise. So there's some familiarity with what I'm going to be talking about. And if you have anything to add, please do. But what our key objectives are is to provide a safer fleet for our employees and our students, increased visibility and reporting. There'll be some mechanisms that'll be used in the vehicles to help track some mileage, idling time, engine diagnostics, and fuel savings. So also creating a more sustainable replacement and budget cycle, looking at a 5-year program to where after 5 years, we're also looking to replace these vehicles and keep them current. Reducing the current fleet by 10 years, because all of our vehicles are 10 years or older. And also wanting to, in this, get 2 sedans, but also a van, a minivan, which we don't currently have in our fleet. So our current fleet, we have 3 vehicles. When I say fleet, this is not all of our vehicles, obviously. We have lots of maintenance vehicles and everything, but these are the vehicles that we're looking to replace. And as you can see, we have a 2012, a 2014, and a 2015. Most of them well over 100,000 miles. One that's not got quite as many miles. These vehicles, we would be looking at either getting rid of or leaving those vehicles for more around town kind of transportation, or like anything west of Asheville. The vehicles that we're looking at getting are 2 Toyota Camrys, one silver, one white, just so that we don't have 2 of the same color, and also a Toyota Sienna, which would be an 8-passenger vehicle, and also a hybrid. How this works would be that Enterprise would purchase these vehicles on state contract. So we would still be able to get these vehicles on state contract pricing, which would make this more affordable. But what the benefit would be is that we're not paying the cost to actually purchase 3 vehicles all in one fiscal year. We're spreading the cost over 5 years. So our total annual cost for the lease of these vehicles would be $21,106. And also the nice thing about this is that after the 5-year lease term, then they would Enterprise would handle selling these vehicles because they're still the owner of the vehicles. We wouldn't have to worry about listing them on Gov Deals, but they would sell these vehicles and probably get top dollar for the vehicles. And whatever so you can see at the end of the term that the Toyota Sienna would still have an unpaid principal of $7,300, and the Toyota Camrys would have a unpaid principal of $5,300, which we could actually opt to purchase those vehicles at that time for that amount of money, or we could sell those, and then we could take the equity that we have in it and use that towards new vehicles. This is some of the warranty information and also the lead times. Unfortunately, there is still quite a wait and lead time on ordering new vehicles. So as you can see on the Sienna, it'd be about 26 to 30 weeks, so we're looking at about 7 months. The Toyota Camrys would be about a 4-month. This is just your standard warranties, but we'd still have the same manufacturer warranties that we would get if we went and purchased these ourselves at any dealership. The next steps would be, I've already sent the agreements to our attorney just to review, just so that he can look over these agreements, because that is a requirement that they would have to look at them even if we moved forward with it. Once we completed the standard agreements, then Enterprise would do all the credit checks and all the background work, and then they would order the vehicles. After that, and once we got our final out-the-door price from the dealerships, then we'd finalize those agreements, take delivery of the vehicles. We'd also have to do something about what I was talking about earlier with the data stream, where they can get odometer readings, and this would be some type of mechanism that they call Geotab, which would provide the odometer readings, but as well as, like I was telling you, all the diagnostic information. And then I believe Mr. Sells is going to ask if you would give us the ability, if you do approve this, to work on finalizing those contracts, because there probably will be little differences here and there on the total final price. Any questions?
Stephanie, on the lead times, you mentioned the 26 to 30 weeks. What's I would expect there to be several of those, like on-the-lot type vehicles.
So if they can find them on the lot, then we would be able to get those quicker if they do have to order it from the factory.
Okay, so that's like if you...
That's factory lead time, yes.
I've got a couple of questions, sorry, because I wasn't in any of so forgive me if I'm asking something that's
No worries.
already been asked. First of all, is there a cap on like mileage? Like, is there an issue?
There is not.
Okay, so it's not like
There's no penalty for the
Okay.
mileage. The only thing with the mileage, if there's high mileage, then that's going to all just reduce what the resale value is at the end of that term.
Okay, and so the warranty was it 3 years? So after that, those 2 years that we're still leasing, we would just be covering any costs on that?
Correct.
Okay. And then what are we currently using the 3 older vehicles for? And you may have said that when I was looking through.
Yeah. Like I said, most of those vehicles are used for long-distance travel, for staff, for professional development. That's what they're primarily used for. They usually go Asheville east.
And I
They
noticed.
do sometimes also take students.
Okay. I noticed the Explorer was still like, it was fairly low, it was lower on miles.
So
Would we have to do all 3 or as a package deal? Because I know that one was a little less.
So tell me, you're talking about the Camry and the Sienna?
No, so the current one that we have, the Explorer, the 2015, I think it was an Explorer. I think it only had, oh, Focus, sorry.
Focus.
Okay, so, yeah, it being like lower mileage, is that as much of a necessity to do that one right now? Do we need to do 3 all at once, I guess, is the question.
We don't have to do 3 all at once. That would be an option that we can decide if you want to. Honestly, the Focus, I don't think usually goes out of town often. It's a smaller vehicle. It's mostly, honestly, the one, it was an old driver's ed car, so that's why it's got low miles on it. And the transportation department, the bus garage uses that a lot for just their going back and forth to some of the schools, check on buses. They use that a lot here in town. And then I think that there's been other times where we had to do a few things to retrofit back to it not being a driver's ed car. It had the brake in it and that sort of thing. But anyway, I mean, it's still a good vehicle, but that's totally all up to you.
And students will be allowed to ride in the van, correct?
Yes. That's one of the
Right.
reasons we're looking at a van, because there's such a large gap between using the minibus, which you have to have a different license for, and using a car. And we're not allowed to use 15-passenger vans like we used to at one time because of legalities. And the Sienna gives us that opportunity to take, if we've got 6 kids, to take them somewhere. That fits within North Carolina expectations for safety.
And
Well,
then,
like the CTE trip Friday, I think there's, 6 or 8 staff going,
Yes.
so somebody will have to drive a bus,
I
but
need
then all the others have to have some mode of transportation.
I guess, and maybe this is more kind of a question for the board, is, if we're looking to dispose these and we're just replacing, then I don't know that we need to get rid of the one that just has 64,000 miles on
We're
it.
not getting rid of it.
But if we're adding 2, I guess then, yeah. And are we disposing any of these, or are we simply adding 3
Yeah, I think it
more?
gives us our best chance to 5 years. All right, let's catch the equity, re-up another 5. You got the possibility of buying it outright, for another year. It'd be 6 years. But it would get to the point where, not very seriously, you're gonna, what is that? I mean, your mileage is not gonna be much over that estimate, probably gonna be under, so you're probably gonna have more equity than really we've got on the chart.
Okay.
And they gave us some data, Lisa, on these, but what they projected those vehicles to sell for, the used ones, I mean, it was low to the point that we were probably better off to just hold on to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of what the,
Or sell them ourselves.
Yes.
right, or sell them
Right,
privately.
right, okay.
we've got more and more need for transporting some students within the county too. And so sometimes we have trouble trying to allocate a vehicle. Say that we just have 1 or 2 students that maybe have jobs during the day and we need to take those students. And, we don't want to take a whole bus, but most of the time our fleet is out. And it's so hard to allocate vehicles. So it would be nice to have at least 1 or 2 vehicles that we keep here for local. And then also have the 1 or 2 of these so that, like I said, if somebody's just going like to Jackson County or Haywood County, that they would take one of the older vehicles and leave the others available for further travel.
Sure, okay.
But
And then I'd say, on top of that too, inevitably, when we phase those old ones out, then you would have your 3 vehicles in that 5-year
Yeah.
plan versus, you know, if
The
you just, we
rotation.
settled for 2 at the moment, at some point, you would need to add that third one in there, I would think, you know.
Okay.
It's, well, I know you showed us this, but like the average age of the vehicles in our fleet, I mean, it was like 18 or so, it was a crazy
Yeah.
number.
Yeah, when you look at all of our maintenance vehicles, everything that we have, but most of those are just used within the county. So.
And financially, where was this? I'm so sorry if I
No,
missed all of that.
please don't be
Okay.
sorry, goodness,
My
no.
intent
This is what this is
to-
for.
To request from, with your all's permission, to request that this particular budget item be permitted this year from Article 46.
Okay.
Which is legal. Right now, in Article 46, I just had it up.
Well, it's just 21,000 for the first.
Yeah, right now, last calculation, we have over $380,000 sitting in Article 46. There's 2.7 million sitting in our capital fund with the county. So the $21,000 is less than 10% of
Sure.
the Article 46.
Okay.
And Lisa, I don't want you to think that I left you out of the discussions. It was
No,
RL and Casey.
I don't think that at all. I
Okay.
just said that because I
He
felt
couldn't
like
be
I
there
was
one
probably
day till I
asking
came
stuff
in.
you've already like
No, no.
discussed, and I just felt
And this
felt
is what
kind of
this
bad
is
making you
for,
repeat
so,
it. Yeah. No, it's totally fine.
And it's something that we can think about branching into the maintenance world at some point, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
there's always that option.
There's going to come the days very soon whenever we're going to need to buy a dump truck of some sort. Our dump truck has been providing as much service as it possibly can, and it's quite frankly just wearing out. Yeah. So this gives us an avenue to look for that as well. When we were speaking with this guy, he said what they would do is they would help search for something that fits our specs. I'm not suggesting that we do that today, but just keep that in mind. It'll be coming probably sooner than later. Okay.
Who's the insurance carrier on that?
So it'd still be the North Carolina School Board Trust,
Okay.
and I have spoken to them. Like I said, the attorneys have also been in contact. There's other school districts that use Enterprise as well, that's through the North Carolina School Board Trust. It is a little bit different. We have some wording, but Enterprise is willing to accept it, and School Board Trust is willing to cover it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes too.
Stephanie, do they require, how much liability do they require on their leased vehicles?
They haven't said, but I mean, I don't know if it'd be what I remember previously for most leased vehicles, which is 100, 300
That's what I was
limits,
thinking.
but our limits exceed that.
Exceed that already? So that wouldn't be an issue.
Correct. Right. The only issue that there is that because we don't have commercial auto insurance, because it's through the school board trust, is the additional insured endorsement. And Enterprise is willing to not have to, is okay with that. They understand that. Any other questions? And I'll,
Any other questions? It's
Yeah,
okay.
no, please don't
Lisa, it's
hesitate.
okay if you
Yeah,
have
please.
questions. There's nothing wrong with that. I will say that, no, that we love you. We do. I will be asking that you approve this with the idea that we request it be released from Article 46 in just a little while. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Stephanie?
I think it's, you got
Yeah, you got
about
about 5 minutes.
6 minutes.
She's gone? Okay. I'm going to throw a couple of things in real quickly, just for information. That request to Article 46 is, I would also like for you to allow me to, how was I going to do this? Allow me to ask that we pull down a little bit more money from the R&R fund, Repair and Renovation Fund. When I went out to West this afternoon, you remember the Daikin compressor that has been out? I'm pretty sure, Tommy, I saw him working on that today. Okay? All right? And the cost for that is $17,451 for the compressor and for the service. That's happening right now. Also, we need two air compressors, and they're not just typical air compressors. And if you want to know more about what they're like, Tommy can fill you in. But at East and West, the thermostat controls in the older part of the facilities are pneumatic. and that means they have to have an air compressor to run. And the air compressors that have been running those are the originals?
Yeah, except for that we already got one of them that's down beyond fixing. We've been through them 2 or 3 times, and we've had to buy one like in Northern to try to just get the hood.
So the cost of those are $11,652 each. We've got 30 years out of the ones that were there, okay? So I would request that you would allow me to ask the commissioners for a $40,719.29 additional draw from the repair and renovation fund out of Raleigh, okay?
And that's different than Article 46.
It is different from
Yeah.
Article 46 stays here.
Right.
The money that I'm talking about, repair and renovation, is also what they have approved and you have asked them to approve for the $311,000 to finish the HVAC work up at the high school.
Right.
Okay? So overall, Cody, the total draw out of that would be about $351,000.
You mean
Of the
middle school?
R&R.
Yeah, out of the middle school, out of the R&R fund,
Okay.
which would leave over 1.4 million still sitting there.
Okay.
Okay? No, excuse me, leave just over 1 million sitting there.
Okay.
Okay? So I'll be asking you to allow me to do that. Do you have any questions about that? We have 3 minutes. Okay? I think that's a wise use of our money.
You said one of the compressors was just gone, right, Sean?
Yeah, they're just worn out, you know? And we bought one to get us through with knowledge that we needed to do something more substantial, and I think they're on the way, correct? Okay. All right? So, Ms. Cook, are we ready for, or Mr. Messer, are we ready for Schneider?
Hey, good evening.
Hello, Graham. Can you hear?
A couple of our team members, Bunty and Brian, available for any questions y'all have.
So will Brian be joining us?
Yeah, Brian's on the line, and so is Bunty right now.
Okay, so you got them with you, correct?
Yeah, they've called in independently. They can say hey really quick just to
Hey.
make sure they're working.
Afternoon, everyone.
Hey, Bunty.
How's it going?
Haven't seen you in a long time.
It has been a while.
Yeah.
You doing good, Dr. Smith?
Yes, are you?
Yes, we are. We
Great.
are.
So in our room, we have Casey Davis, who is not on screen for you right now, I don't think. It will back up. He's sitting on the right side there waving at you. Lisa Loftus is sitting right beside him. The person all the way at the back is Cody White. He's the chair of this organization. The young man sitting just beside him is R.L. Taylor. I say young man tongue in cheek. He's the oldest in the bunch now and catches that quite often. And this fellow beside me in this maroon hat is Mitch Carson. He is our vice chair. Thank you all for joining with us this evening. I think that there have been some questions about the contract that we are engaged with you in and the flexibility particularly within that contract. And so I'm going to start with a question and then turn the questioning over to anyone else that wants to ask things, okay? Could you please articulate to us what kind of flexibility do we have in our set points regarding how long we are running occupied or unoccupied, particularly in light of 2 issues. One is whenever we have extraordinary temperature events on either side of the spectrum. And the other one, whenever we're having equipment difficulties that is causing the system to perhaps not operate at full efficiency. We've run into that some lately as well. I know that's a big question. Can you help us understand the flexibility that we have in that?
Yeah, let me start from a contract standpoint, and then I'll have Bunty and Brian answer from, a technical standpoint. So first off, within our contract, we are not limiting you in any way, shape, or form in your set points and your schedules. Y'all can operate however you see fit, and works best for your school district. What we've done is we've really modeled what savings would be if you ran at these certain set points and schedules and based the contract values off of that. In addition, we've also reduced our projected savings down 15% to our guaranteed savings. So the entire contract is based off of guaranteed savings. And so it's really based off of like 85% of what we think you all would save. And so what that does is it gives you that flexibility to make adjustments as needed, as long as they're not huge, wholesale changes, adding on a wing to a school or running like way outside of normal temperature set points. You have that flexibility to be able to make adjustments when, there are certain needs that pop up. And so from a contractual standpoint, right, there definitely is flexibility as y'all need it. And I know you've done a good job of coordinating with Brian as there have been specific needs that pop up. So that's kind of the baseline I wanted to make sure to set, is that, you have flexibility as needed. With that being said, the set points and schedules that we had set forth in the contract was for heating. You guys have the ability to go up to 71 degrees. And that's occupied. So 11 hours a day is what we expected to be occupied. That doesn't include ramp up times, right? So like, let's say for one school that maybe y'all, you have folks coming in at 7, we would expect it to be comfortable, right? 71, anywhere from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then you would be unoccupied for the other 13 hours. So 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. But again, that doesn't include ramp up time. So if it takes an hour or two to get the school comfortable during the winter, right, that includes that number. So you've got time set aside to be able to do that. And then for cooling, you're allowed, you're able to cool down to 74 and still drive the savings within that contract. And again, that's for occupied school day times, right? So that's kind of what we set aside in the contract. But I'll let Brian talk about, the adjustments that y'all are able to make. I think he had answered this question in an email format too.
Yeah, that's correct, Graham. Mr. Sale, I believe we did talk about this a little bit, and the schedules and set points, that Schedule D standards of comfort document is a good guideline. But if you need to go outside of that for any reason, like Graham said, equipment issues, or you're just not, comfort issues, you're more than welcome to. All we ask is that you let us know, so we're all on the same page.
So Brian, we come in at the kids get there, let's just say 7-ish, faculty certainly 7-ish. Temperature overnight in the unoccupied time has dropped the building to 62 degrees. It's okay for us to start ramping that up at say 5 a.m. so that when they walk in the building, they're not walking into a 62 degree building.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and typically in our modeling, like Graham said, just to add to that, we guesstimate that it takes about an hour and a half, but in our modeling and the savings analysis, we take 2 hours for that ramp up period. So we don't think it'll take 2 hours, but it's accounted for in our savings as well.
Yeah, so 5 a.m. would be your normal startup time in that example, right? Of a 7 a.m., is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. unoccupied. We would expect your equipment to start coming on around 5.
Okay. And so it's going to be my intent, gentlemen, to establish a schedule with our maintenance so that when our staff walk in the building, they're walking into comfort, at least closer to the comfort that they would expect at home. And that's going to be true in both seasons, heating and cooling. Do I need to share that timeline with you so that you'll have awareness of that?
Yeah, that'd be great. And also, I did want to make a note too that these set points and schedules only apply to where we did like building automation scope and actually standardized set points and schedules, which are the 2 elementary schools. So those are really the only 2 that we're pulling savings from set points and schedules. So if you want to share those 2, that'd be really helpful for our savings analysis. The other 2, you guys can run however you'd like and don't even need to let us know. Yeah.
Those are the only questions that I have.
Yeah, it's gonna be flexible. I mean, like this week, it's not an issue.
No.
You know?
But when you're 10 degrees outside, none of us want kids walking into a 55-degree room.
Right.
And I was not aware that we had this level of flexibility, so if I need to bear responsibility for that, I will. But we've made the appropriate adjustments, and to my knowledge, Tommy, the people have been walking into comfortable buildings for the past couple of weeks.
That's good.
Okay?
We had isolated incidents, but that's not what we had.
Okay. All right. Casey, I think you may have some questions.
Yeah, so I mean, you answered the majority of my questions. It was related to the set points, obviously. That was the big thing I wanted to make sure we had flexibility on. Only other question that I had was, these baseline calculations, they were done a couple, 3, 4 years ago. I would be curious to see, how are we trending in actuality against those projected costs? And just, are we ahead? Are we behind? And what are the implications towards this overall, it's like an 18-year contract, right? So
Yes.
where are we trending in that regard?
And I think that we have a good portion of that data. Did you hear Casey's request?
I did. Yeah. So we can definitely put that together for you. I'll tell you, everything is trending in a good direction. The only challenge we've run into the last few years was, and we just got it squared away, was an issue with the state rate for propane. Basically, AmeriGas was charging you guys an incorrect rate. We've got that all squared away. So going forward, we fully expect you guys to be at or exceeding your guaranteed savings on an annual basis.
Okay.
And we can put together, a report. I think this spring, like late spring, should be our year 4 annual reconciliation. I mean, we can get it to you sooner than that, but also would love to have you attend our annual reconciliation meeting, and we can kind of go through the savings on an annual basis, but also like specifically for year 4 and how it compares to the baseline period.
And I think that Casey would also like to have that comparison for the past 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. We can put that together.
I'd like to see like just cumulative where we're at. And to me, that would help us make decisions, right? Like it sounds like we may potentially make some adjustments to set points,
Yes.
which would maybe make us a little less efficient. But if we're projecting and we're 3 or 4% ahead,
Yes.
it makes sense to justify that.
Do you want a timeline on that? Are you comfortable waiting until, is it the April reconciliation, or would you like it sooner?
No, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So if you could have your team, Graham, put that together for our next reconciliation, and we'll make sure that we have the board there for explanation as well. Anybody that wants to, okay?
Perfect. That sounds good. And if anything changes and you need it sooner, just let me know.
Right. Anyone, any other questions?
Hey, Mr. Sale,
Yes, sir.
just on the set points and schedule, if you can go back to the original set of schedules and you go to Schedule G,
Yes.
that's kind of defined in terms of, hey, here's the thresholds that you guys have to operate in, and you're still within the savings guarantee. So there's a couple items in Schedule G, item 7 and item 8, that talk about schedule and points. And as an average, so if you're doing it in one small little space or a few spaces, that's not going to change the average. But I think our threshold is on schedule. If you're changing it more than 5% of the overall schedule defined in in Schedule D, then that's something that, hey, may affect our guarantee savings. Or if you're changing it an average of half a degree across those two schools that Graham identified, then that's a cause for it. So I just want to call that out as like, hey, that's got a lot of things in there, and it does it pretty clearly for you guys to kind of quickly understand, okay, here's my threshold, here's the operating parameters. If I go outside of this, you're free to do so. Again, I just want to make sure that's clear. It just may be a cause for an adjustment in our report to say, hey, if you were still back in this threshold, you would have met savings, but because you chose to operate out of that, which you're free to do, this is the impact to savings. That's all.
Okay, all right, and I'll tell you what I'll do, Bunny, is I'll get with Tommy and Brandon Burdette, and we'll put together what our intent is going to be with schedules and numbers, and share that with you to see if we're throwing ourselves outside that 5% variance. Okay?
Yep, perfect.
All right. Anything else? Anything? Gentlemen, anybody out here? Stephanie, do you have any questions? Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Appreciate you. Have always enjoyed working with you. Graham, congratulations on child number 2. Tell us when child number 3 is on the way.
Hopefully never. Yeah.
I think there'll be bigger problems if there's child number 3, right?
You and your wife make beautiful babies, so the more the merrier, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, and look forward to seeing you guys here in a few months.
All right.
Out there in person. Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
All right, take
Have a
care.
good evening.
Thank you, guys.
Item D. Can we get back to the agenda now? Item D has to do with the $311,900 drawdown for the middle school HVAC, okay? And Stephanie, there's a timing issue that we need to be aware of that has to do with the repair and renovation fund is actually for reimbursement, correct? So do we need to go ahead and draw that down, or do we need to wait?
I don't think we need to go ahead and draw it down per se, but to go ahead and get the approval, and then, as soon as we pay that final invoice, we'll draw it down, or at least within 3 days of the payment. We want to make sure we draw down as well.
So what I'm going to do in a few minutes, if I can remember this, and I have Joanne sitting right here at my right to make sure I remember things. I'm going to request that you approve the drawdown of that $311,000 within that time period. The commissioners have already signed off on this. All that is left is for Cody to sign, okay? And then we'll be able to send that into Raleigh and be reimbursed for that. But I think it would be wise for us to go ahead, since you only approved for me to go ask for it, I think it would be wise if you would consider approving that we do go ahead and move on that, okay? And Stephanie, if you'll stick around until that, so that you can help me remember exactly what that timeline is, please? 3 days before, whatever you just said.
I mean, I just don't want to draw it down too far in advance.
No.
That's all. I mean, but we would just draw it down as quickly after we make the payment, that final payment.
So hopefully my language, please help me with this, my language will be within 3 days after,
I wouldn't even worry about it.
Okay.
I would just say that we have the authorization signed to draw down the funds once the funds have been expended.
okay, that's the way we'll say it then, okay? Thank you very much. All right. You have a couple of letters. You have a letter that is an agreement between the county, the town, and the school board. And did we get them this copy? It's the one that has the 3 pictures at the top, okay? I have more information for you that I would like to probably include with this as a statement of need. This just came in. I mean, while we were in session, this just came in. This is from the town engineer. I haven't looked at this, I don't know what the numbers are. About the cost of the sewer and water repairs, renovations, upgrades. And what Nate has done is he has, if you'll look at the map, Nate has gone ahead and identified the work that he believes as an engineer, certified engineer, needs to be done. And then he's put together a cost list on the front page. Okay? And what I would like to do is to get your approval to sign a letter of request to Mike Clampett for $10 million for this project, and then I will include this with it as a sign that we are being due diligent in the request.
Now, mind you, some of this infrastructure can be covered under the grant.
If it's
On the
within,
property.
if it's within the property
So you
boundaries,
got quite
it
a
can
bit
be
of water
covered by the
line and
grant.
a little bit of sewer line there.
That can all be covered within the grant funding, yes.
But he's included that in his
Correct.
estimate.
Yes, he
Correct.
has.
Yes.
The grinder assembly for the middle school.
And there's several pieces on here that aren't involving us directly, obviously. Like the stem to the airport property.
But that's a reason, Mitch, I think that it's important for us to work in conjunction with the
Correct.
town and the county, because the project is larger than just for the middle school.
Absolutely.
I also think that after meeting with Lake Silver from Congressman Edwards' office this week, he said that the weight of the three organizations coming together is much heavier than just one organization by itself. This is why you don't ever give papers to students in the classroom if you're going to try and talk to them at the same time. Because that's all new information, and I know that. So my request is going to be that you agree to allow Cody to sign that letter of agreement. We already have, I already have a statement from, yes, we already have a statement from Kevin Siegel that they're on board, and Sam has affirmed that the aldermen are also on board. Those are verbal statements to me. So all of this needs to go in to Micah Clampett, and I would suggest we also send it to Kevin Corbin. This all needs to go in by the end of business next Monday, okay? Do you have any questions about that or any concerns?
Are we submitting the estimate?
I'm going to put that, I believe,
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest we put that in
I
with
think it
it.
needs to be an attachment to show the justification for the request.
I agree. One of the concerns in the past from Representative Clampett is he has felt like there could have been a more sufficient plan to go along with it. And I think we're at a point now where we have a sufficient plan to say this is happening and this is how it's going to happen. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? You have another letter somewhere that has our letterhead on it. Yes. And Representative Clampett has asked all of the entities in Swain County to come to him with budget requests. I've spoken with you a little bit about this over the past 10 days or so, and I think we came to a conclusion that the request for the 10 million is a primary need to include in this letter, But I also suggested that we need to ask for an increase in small schools revenue. Right now, we are receiving about $1.7 million a year, correct? From the General Assembly that is allotted to us as a small school with I think it's based on enrollment numbers, okay? There are 30 different counties across North Carolina that are also receiving revenue from this in various categories. We are a member of the Small Schools Consortium who lobby for us in Raleigh, and it's recommended to us by that organization, I believe it's the policy group, that we ask for a 40% increase. The numbers that you see in that letter to Representative Clampett reflect that 40% increase. That, if my memory is correct, that would push us from, I think, 1.7 to 2.4 million a year. Am I correct? Because I think we're tier 2 or tier 3, right, Casey? In that?
2.38.
Yeah. I can't express heavily enough, deeply enough, how much that $700,000 would mean to Swain County Schools. We use this small schools money almost like local funding, and pay for a lot of things with it. So I included that in there based on our discussion. I also included in that letter a plea that he continue to support us in calendar flexibility. I know that that's not a budget item, but we have asked them for 4 years now, to back us in that, he and Senator Corbin, and they have every single time. They believe that we should be able to start school when we believe is best and end when we believe is best. Right now, we're trapped within the Monday closest to August 26th, okay? So I just put that in there as a reminder that this matters. Other than that, those are the items that I've included. Do you want me to remove any of that? Do you want me to add anything else? I've asked Stephanie if there's anything else that we need to put in there, and she feels that this is sufficient. But ultimately, it's going to be your signatures that go to him.
So you're going to send both these letters together?
I'm going to send our letter, and I'm going to send them separately, okay?
But at the same time?
But they'll both go on the same day. If I can get approval from you all on our request to Representative Clampett, and you would be willing to sign that tonight, I can get that by email to him tomorrow, and Senator Corbin has asked that I copy him on that as well. Okay? Is there anything else you want to include in that? Okay, I'll be asking for your approval on that in just a little while. I apologize for doing so much talking tonight. There's a lot, okay? I had intended for Toby to speak to the Maroon Devil Network report. Mitch, you asked for where we are on that. Joe has been part of that as well. I'm going to give you some real quick background on how that has played out. Casey, this was decided back in the summer, and I don't know how up to date you are on that. We have seen an athletic fund shortfall because of the rising cost of materials and salaries, particularly for referees and officials. The board decided to use the Maroon Devil Network as a fund source by charging $6 a month. So far to this point, the numbers that you have in front of you show a $6,700 revenue. The projection is that will climb to at least 8,000, if not 10,000 by the end of the year, which is a successful venture for this. The concern was that it would drop viewership. What I see by the numbers that are in front of you is that viewership has dropped by a little over 50%. Some are saying 2/3 at this point. But those people that are viewing or who have the subscription maintain their subscription. So I can tell you at my house, this is how it works. Susan doesn't want to go everywhere all the time, so she has a subscription to this, and she keeps it every month whether she uses it or not, you know? And I think there are a lot of people that are doing that. Now, we're looking at a survey about the effectiveness and if there are people who may be just not be able to use this and how we can make this better. But right now, I would consider this to be successful. And we said back earlier in the year that we would look at this again in the summer. Okay, if you have any questions, I would try to answer them, but Joe really is more of the expert on this than I am. Anyone?
We can wait and reevaluate more towards the end of the summer and we'll get a full.
Yeah, get a full scale
Get a
of the
full
year.
year,
Yeah.
in and kind of see what we're doing from
Yeah,
there.
that's good for an update though.
Okay. We've had more weather interruptions this year than I have seen in a decade. I'm sorry, Casey.
No, you're good.
If we need to do better at organizing this, we will,
You're
okay?
right.
Tonight is exceptional with paperwork, so I'm sorry. I have a calendar proposal in front of you for the remainder of this year. If you can't find it, you can have mine. Back in September, October, whenever Hurricane Helene came through, we missed about 5 days. One of those was already scheduled to miss. The state forgave those days, so those don't really count. We've had 7 days that have been impacted by weather because of freezing and snow. That's more than usual. That's requiring that we move some optional teacher work days and some things around. If you look at your calendar proposal, what I am suggesting is that we move optional teacher work days beginning to May 30th all the way. We'll have to move those all the way through June the 6th. That will put end of the year, end of course testing within the last 5 days of the student attendance, which probably will begin about May 22nd, it looks like. And it would allow for us to potentially, I need to repeat that word, potentially hold graduation on May 29th. The community is chomping at the bit to know when graduation is. I believe with this calendar and with some of the other flexibilities that we have right now that we can keep graduation on May 29th, okay, in the evenings, starting at 7 o'clock. Okay? I'm going to request that you approve this calendar adjustment. Those are really the only adjustments that we have made to it. Okay? Do you have any questions about this?
How many snow days are built into or bad weather days are built into the calendar, Stroby?
Every day that's a teacher work day is built in as a snow day, and we can move those around. I try to keep 5 days at the end of the year anyhow, because we operate on hours, 1,025 hours required. I also build in a buffer of instructional hours so that we can miss a day and not have to make it up because we still complete the number of instructional hours that are required. Okay? So we've got flexibility in those 2 different ways. But that's when I'm putting this together with people, that's what I keep in the back of my mind. Okay?
It's about 5 days.
I try to keep 5 days, including a couple of annual leave days at the end, to do something with. Any other questions or thoughts? Lisa? I know that you like to follow the calendar, and I don't blame you. Okay? All right. I will ask for your approval on that. You're almost done hearing from me, okay? Jerry McKinney has been on the SCC Board of Trustees for a couple, 2 or 3 years now. as the recommendation from our school board. Jerry called me the other day, and he and Dr. Don Thomas, the president of SCC, have been talking about what's going to happen with the building, the SCC building out at Almond right now. Okay, and they're very concerned about that because it's falling into disrepair. In order for them to fix that, and if I'm not mistaken, that building belongs to them now, or it might belong to the county, I'm not sure which. I think it belongs to them. In order to fix that, they're going to have to request money from the General Assembly, and it's in the millions of dollars. They are also beginning to ask, what are we going to do with the middle school campus whenever we get a new building? And we don't have that answer. We really haven't even been talking about that yet, okay? What Jerry and Dr. Thomas are asking is if we could have a couple of people to sit down and talk to them about that, not to make decisions, but just as a point of discussion. Personally, Cody, I don't think there's anything wrong with a discussion. And I think that it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to begin to talk about, so what's next up there for planning.
Involve the commissioners in that?
Well, I figured that you would say that, because ultimately, that's a joint venture. And I would support that, and I would be happy to put that together just for discussion. I don't believe it's time to make decisions. That's my opinion.
I agree.
Okay? So if that's acceptable to all of you, if you would appoint a discussion committee for the SCC request at some point, I'll set up a meeting. Okay?
Who owns that middle school building?
At this point, do the commissioners own that, or do we own that? Is there a lien against it?
Yes, there would, well, no, there's no lien against that.
There's no lien against that building.
There's no lien against that, but that was just the question I was writing down is, once it's no longer used as a school, does that revert to the county? That was my question, so.
I don't know.
That had been mentioned previously.
Correct.
In a commissioners meeting, and that's the reason why I asked if the commissioners need to be involved. But if it doesn't say that once it stops being a Swain County school, if SEC is still technically a school under that, then it may still be under the authority or not. But we'll have to look at that, I'm not sure.
I think that's, personally, just thinking off the top of my head, I think that's a conversation between our lawyer and their lawyer to decide what's appropriate with that, the legalities of it. And then take that information and go from there.
Do we need to decide that first before we start discussions? Because there's
Yes.
no reason discussing anything until we know.
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
I will, Joanne, if you will take a note, please, to have me put an email together to Kim and to Ashley and let them get on the phone and counsel on that and then give us direction.
And from that
Okay.
point, we'll do a committee.
Okay? All right. Evan, they're tired of listening to me. Would you come and talk about the SRO, MOU, LMNOP? Tommy, be getting your thoughts together.
Good afternoon. As part of our SRO grant requests, we are required to submit we've been asked to submit an MOU between Swain County Schools and Swain County Sheriff's Department, and that is something that we have done in previous grant applications over the years. There are various parts of that MOU that kind of outline what Swain County Sheriff's Department's role would be as an SRO, and what Swain County Schools' role would be in that relationship, and where those two relationships kind of come together. There's language as to what the school administration and school officials should do and can still do in that process versus when the SRO should step in. But to my understanding, we're running that MOU through legal because we just want to be very clear that Swain County Schools officials can still do what they need to do to not only protect students' rights within the school environment. There's even a section in MOU that defines that difference between the learning environment and the unique rights of individuals within that learning environment versus outside of school. And we want to be very careful about making sure that everyone's clear about that. So we're still running that through legal. Is that correct, Mr. Sale?
Yes.
Okay. And this is not a new thing. We've submitted an MOU with all of our safety grant requests that involve SROs, but just wanted to make you aware where we are in that process right now.
This is the first time that the safety group out of Raleigh has required that we have this. Am I correct? To receive that funding. Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
To my memory, I don't remember, because we have actually had to look for our MOU with the sheriff's department in the past. This is kind of a new thing. And this is the MOU that came from Raleigh, from that group. I don't have any difficulties with it. Sheriff Cochran has already signed it. I shared it with them. The question would be, are you willing to sign that this evening, or to allow us to move forward? And I think Cody would need to sign that. Or would you want to delay that?
Does anything change as part of the MOU as what we've been doing the past decade with, funding and all of that with the SROs and the amount of SROs we have per school?
No.
So nothing changes?
No.
Okay. I mean, if it's the status quo, I don't like using that phrase lightly, but if it's what it has been for the last foreseeable, past, then I don't see an issue with it. But if there's changes, then we probably want to look at those.
I don't know of any changes, and the financial pieces of it are not spelled out in the MOU. That's an agreement between us and the sheriff's department. Do you all understand how our SROs are paid for?
I was going to ask that. Are they paid through the sheriff's department?
No. Yes.
Good answer.
Okay. The salaries of the SRO, 3 of the SROs are paid through the safety grant. Okay? The safety grant will not cover the high school SRO. So we pay for that locally, correct? And the sheriff's department is responsible for all of the other elements of their employment, including transportation, uniforms. If they pay for uniforms, I don't know who pays for that. Cody could tell that. And for all of their training, okay? So it's a joint venture. That's how the sheriff's department, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, but that's how the sheriff's department covers the match, which is required.
Yes, but they are county employees. We do not pay any SRO directly. They are county employees. But we pay to the county what we receive from the SRO grant, and then they have to match, provide the vehicle, the uniforms, the training, all that.
So given that this may have never been required before, this is just basically putting the agreement that we have with the sheriff's office and Swain County Schools into a memorandum, MOU, so that everyone completely understands the roles and responsibilities of each office.
Yes.
And it had a 2-year, it's a 2-year date on it.
It's a 2-year agreement. It will have to be revisited in 2 years, which is when the next safety grant would have to be submitted.
Is it time sensitive that we take action on it?
I don't know that we can receive our safety grant funding until this is turned in. What, do you remember, Evan?
My understanding is this funding, it will begin for next school, it won't.
They're holding our funding right now until we submit an updated.
So there is a level of time sensitivity to it, yes, Casey? Is there, do you want time to look at it?
I don't foresee any problems, but I am a little nervous about signing something that I definitely haven't read, so.
And I appreciate that, because we're going to talk about another contract in just a minute that you're probably going to have the same reluctance on. So I am comfortable, if you are comfortable as a group with taking a week to give you an opportunity to look at this and for us to have conversation, and then if you would accept a digital approval through email?
Sure.
Okay?
And then I can come down and sign it.
Yeah.
You just have to stay on the job.
Okay? I don't want to delay a great amount of time because we do, if there are any adjustments to this, we need to make them quickly. Okay? Is that fair?
And I don't anticipate there will be any, just new territory for me, so.
Absolutely. And I respect that. Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay? So, in a week, we'll program that for next Wednesday. I'll send an email to you requesting approval of this. Okay? All right. What's next? Thank you. With the change in administration in Washington, and with the executive actions that have been put into place, Title IX has been affected, okay? Title IX, I'm going to let Tommy do the talking on this, because Tommy is our Title IX coordinator, okay? So Tommy, would you come and give a brief overview of Title IX and what is being recommended to us by our attorneys, okay? This didn't come from out of nowhere.
Most of you have heard or at least somewhat familiar with what Title IX is, but it's more than just athletics. It's just saying that you cannot, basically, it codifies for us that you cannot be discriminated against based on a distinguishing characteristic within the school environment, whether that be your, several different things, sexual orientation, your skin color, anything, that you can't be discriminated against based on those things, nor bullied and those types of things. So we have some policies that are in our books that we have adopted and changed during the previous administration. And with some of the things that have came down, we had a meeting online that our lawyers serve basically throughout the region last week, and we were urged to make some changes based on things that had came down from Washington. And so there's a group of policies, and it's 1710, 1720, and the two interim policies that we have in our packet, and I provided you with these, I think, inside your stuff, but a 1725 and 1726 are both interim policies. And what we have been basically asked to do is to, do you want me to go into what the action is?
Please do.
Okay. And what we've been asked to do is to rescind policy 1710, to rescind the current policy, and to waive the first reading of that policy that was adopted, and waive the first reading of that policy that was adopted on July the 28th, 2020, and vote to reinstate the policy adopted on July the 28th, 2020. That's the first thing that they asked us to do. Basically, we're reverting all the way back to the 2020 policies that govern Title IX.
So in effect, what's happening, if you think about this as a timepiece, it's reverting back to Title IX policies during the previous Trump administration. That's all that's happening.
And really and truly, it's not a wholesale amount of changes. It's a couple of, it's not a huge amount. You can see what we have online currently, being that we have not adopted this yet, and you have to pay attention to even see any difference. But there are differences. And this is what we've been asked to do, is to revert basically to what we were doing before. Same with 1720, rescind the current policy, waive first reading of policy that was revised, and this thing went black on me, that was revised on March the 14th of 2022, and then vote to reinstate the 2022 policy. At the interims, we were rescinding current policies, which are interims, waive the first reading of policies that were adopted on July the 28th, 2020, and vote to reinstate the policies adopted on July the 28th, 2020. And those are the four policies that you had a copy of inside of this, and that's the reason that we included them, is because it changes some verbiage inside, everything from the way we look at Title IX to the way that we investigate Title IX things. So that's the reason it was important to do this time of the essence, because of the fact that there have been some executive orders that have impacted that.
And I want to go back and say that this came to us from our attorneys, okay? And the reason that we're moving so quickly on this is because the executive orders for this are in effect. And our attorneys feel that we need to be current with that.
And the other thing is, if we got a complaint at this time based on the policies as published, it may not even be investigated exactly the same way and/or be applicable to what their complaint is based on some changes in verbiage. Does that make sense? So we really do need to move on this one pretty quick.
Okay, so we'll be requesting that you approve these changes, and I'll specify very intently what they are in a recommendation, unless you want more time to look at these. And if you do, we again can move in a different direction.
You said you are going to provide a summary of the changes?
We can.
It's usually the school board's trust provides these but this is one of those things that we haven't gotten anything from them. It's basically that we've been urged by our lawyers to just turn the clock back, and then we're safe. And so so the ones that you have right there are the ones that we are being compelled to comply with. The ones you have in your possession right there, the ones that are available online currently in our policies page, with the board policy page, are the ones that are currently in place, and these and those are not exactly alike, but it's not a lot of difference. Just a couple of words here and there.
But the answer to your question is yes, there
We
can
can strike
be
it.
a comparison created for you.
And
if
there
you would
may
like
be
that.
one there may be one with the changes with the red inks and stuff that we have, that may already have that.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but
I
that may
haven't-
be something we can look at.
I've really put that in your hands. I haven't had a chance to look at that yet.
But I can check that out and see what the differences are.
Can we look at it?
I was just going, this would, accept what we had in 2020 would put us in compliance right now.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
And then we've got other policies that we're going to have to look at down the road, and we can
Yes.
go back and look at these and
Yes.
see. But this would put us in compliance if we accept these.
And I think that part of the executive order's failure to be within compliance would be the threat of withholding federal money if you're not in compliance. So
The threat of that is real.
it's very real. So
Yeah.
this is a times of the essence type deal.
And our lawyers have already looked over these.
Yes.
Yes.
We're not doing anything that our lawyers have not suggested.
Right.
So can I recommend that we go ahead and approve these to stay in compliance? And then what we can do, Casey, is I have probably 2 dozen, maybe 3 dozen additional policies from the school board school board association that we need to work through. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Did you get them post January 20th, or
No,
so they may change as well?
it's possible. The revisions that I have came to me, I think, November. I just haven't had time to get to them just yet. Okay? And then we could put these in there and fine tooth them. Okay? Is that all right?
And I'll check that folder and see if that's in there, Casey.
If you would, please.
I will.
Okay. I got a contract today that I've been waiting for a couple of months. It is the cartwheel agreement. I brought that to you, I believe, in December, and asked for you to look at it, and then was going to get back with you. But as we began to look through it, and as our attorneys started to look at it, I delayed on getting back with you because there were some things that needed to be adjusted. The adjustments have been made. We have provided you with a copy that should have yellow highlights across it, okay? Those are the primary pieces to pay attention to on this agreement. Barbara's going to come and she's going to give you a real quick refresher of this contract. And then I want to ask for Stephanie if she would go over those essential pieces that we talked about this afternoon. And then I'm going to ask if you are willing to consider voting on this evening, or if you would like to delay and study it. The people who are providing this service have been waiting for 2 months for us to act on this, okay? However, they could wait 7 more days if they need to. Barbara, give us a background.
So, legislature provided funding after Hurricane Helene to the affected areas, and that is the funding that we would be using for this. So it's not any money from our operating expenses here within the school system. I do want to point that out from the beginning, but it basically would provide telehealth counseling to any of our students, and it's extended hours, so it's on weekends, and I believe 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., so it's extended hours. And this is an opt-in, so this means there is not going to be anybody seeing any type of counselor without parent approval.
Parent approval.
They will have, that's the first meeting is with the parent, and they'll be assigned a case manager, and it's all telehealth. And there will be a case manager that follows that student and meets with the school system rep in that building. There is a module that is based on live data on appointments and a referral process that all goes online through that case manager. And so there is no wait list, whereas right now when students are trying to see a clinician out in the community, it can take weeks to get in with somebody. And there's even wait lists in our area where they're not going to be able to see anybody for some time. It's also not exactly reliable always in our area with therapists, but there's no wait list with this, 100% access. They have bilingual case managers and counselors if that's needed. We have a clinical program manager within that program that would work with our SEL group, our counselors, social workers, myself, and it's personalized care and ongoing support. They can do family therapy, they can do group therapy, individual therapy. Those are the highlights from it. Do you have any main questions?
Any questions for Barbara about the program itself? What it's going to do?
So this is for us just to pay for services, like they're not billing their insurance or?
There is billing involved with Medicaid, yes. There's billing, and there is a pocket of funding within this structure for people that are underinsured, that
Not-
wouldn't meet the Medicaid funding
Not
model.
insured and underinsured, and that's one of the pieces that we got adjusted. The company was
We
only going
did.
to allow 8 referrals. We've pushed them to allow 10. I have been assured by this particular group that that number will last the term of this contract, that will be enough, okay? And Lisa, I don't have any background on whether that's true or not. Sometimes I have to trust the people that talk to me.
Yeah, and the case manager will meet with us regularly to tell us where we're at with our metrics, with our numbers. And if we're seeing X amount of students, if some of those are pro bono, or if we're in the referred services within that 76 to 100 model that we have. And this is a 2-year time frame. Well, 2.5 technically.
Technically, because the
2.5.
end date on this has been pushed up now. Isn't that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Lisa, is this, I haven't had a whole lot of experience with mental health providers. Not to say that you have, but maybe in your, that's not how I meant this. Although if you have, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. My wife suggests it quite regularly. I'm sorry. So anyhow, I don't know if you're in your line of work, if you have that opportunity or not. But this is the same model that I understand that most mental health providers offer. It's either insurance, Medicaid, or some other source of funding, often a sliding scale.
Yeah. So we'd be able to serve up to 10?
Not insured or
Not
underinsured.
or
Yeah, pro bono.
underinsured,
But
yeah.
but they've assured us that they're gonna work with us and to not turn people away,
That's
you know? So. This is just an option for families. It's not something that everybody's gonna wanna to jump on board with, and we understand that, but it's just another option to help our families.
And this was for all grades, right? Or was this just at the high school?
It is
No,
for all
it's for
grades,
all.
no.
Yeah, okay.
It's all grades.
That's all. But there is a referral process. It's not like they can just call
No.
So their
this
doctor does have to
organization
refer
and
them.
say, I want to
Okay.
see a counselor. There will be a process through our school system
Okay.
with our social workers and our counselors.
I think that's a critical piece for this, because as I have worked in the schools and I've watched our counselors and our social workers try to deal with some of the mental health issues that are becoming even more prevalent, it seems. Sometimes they hit a roadblock because they've gone as far as they can go. And now what do you do? And this gives us that option of referral beyond that.
They do not do crisis. I will say that as far as crisis intervention, as far as suicide screenings for the students that they're not already working with. So for instance, where we use mobile crisis for that, that would continue
That
that in
continues.
that direction.
Okay?
So this is in addition to and not in lieu of any services we already have.
Absolutely, it's 100% addition.
Yes,
Yes.
in addition, yes.
And to throw out another piece of this, we have the Blue Ridge Health Center at the middle school, and it functions in some capacity at the high school as well, if I'm not mistaken. And there is potential that was offered with mental health counseling opportunity, and there is some potential that they may be able to pick that up soon. So we've got
There is.
multiple avenues.
Yeah.
Potential. Okay? Stephanie, do you want to highlight the key pieces of this for us?
I think Barb covered it pretty well. I mean, we did receive $57,500. It is, the funds extend through June 30th, 2027. They're going to bill us quarterly, just a standard amount quarterly. It's not going to be based on services rendered or anything like that. They do give us up to 100 referrals, 10 that are non-insured. To your question, Lisa, they do bill commercial insurance. There will be co-pays and co-insurance for those with commercial insurance, but they'll give those rates and stuff to them prior to services being rendered, so the parents can agree. That's all.
Okay?
And legal's already taken a look at the contract.
That's what has delayed us. The answer is yes.
Okay.
Got it from John Henning this afternoon at 4 o'clock.
If they looked at it and it sounds like it's at no cost to us and we're providing an additional therapeutic service for mental health counseling for our students, I don't see why not.
So are you comfortable with moving ahead with that this afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. The last thing is a feel-good, in my opinion. There should be copies of pictures, right? That's in your packet somewhere. And those copies of pictures are coming from some of our schools, because RL has wisely asked that we promote ourselves with positive imaging. And so I went to the principals and I said, get your kids to create some positive images for us. And that's what they've turned in. East is still working on theirs, and the high school is working on theirs as well. Mike, you've turned yours in, yes? Mike, you've turned yours in, right? Yes, sir. Oh, okay. And so the next step would be for us to get these in a format that can be hung up and identify where we want to put them, and then continue the process so that we can change these out every now and then, I'm not a guy who puts signs up, but if you put a couple of posts up and use plywood, it seems to me that you ought to be able to change your signs out, right? But I wanted to show those to you. And or I want you to see that there's some really cool stuff there, really.
neat.
And maybe we'll get some of our adults to do some work too. I'd rather have kid images all day. Okay? So that's just a feel good. Mr. White, I think that's enough. That's all I've got.
So we ready to move on to action?
Yes, I probably should apologize. I added an H without permission.
Well, I think it was until then, I don't know that I don't know if there's anything that needs to be done, because until we knew what the board's feelings were on the contract, we didn't know whether we were gonna add it or not.
Well, and I knew that was there, and I apologize for not remembering at the beginning. I should have had that down, but that just came in.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the audit contract that has been presented by Ms. Treadway.
Motion.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Pass unanimous.
I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the auto fleet agreement with the understanding that I'll be going to the commissioners to receive that from Article 46.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion on it? All in favor by show of hands? Passes unanimous.
I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the other request to commissioners for the compressors and the Daikin repair, and that money would become from the repair and renovation fund out of Raleigh.
Motion.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Passes.
I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the repair and renovation draw for the middle school HVAC, $311,000 plus. Okay?
Make a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Passes.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education approve the 24-25 calendar adjustment as it's been presented to you.
Make a
Motion.
motion. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Passes unanimous.
I recommend the Swain County Board of Education approve the consent agenda, including personnel and the minutes from the January 13th, 2025 meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Passes unanimous.
I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the budget request to Mike Clampett from the school board.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion passes.
I also recommend Swain County Board of Education sign the letter of request to Mike Clampett regarding the water and sewer funding that will be jointly signed by the town of Bryson City and the commissioners.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? And before we do the next one, do we need to vote to waive the first reading of these policies before we actually vote on the policy implementation?
And I think that would be wise. I can include that in this recommendation, or would you prefer that it be two recommendations?
Let's, now you could probably make it in one. You're voting to waive it and adopt it at the same time. You could probably do that in a recommendation.
All right. So I'm going to recommend that the Swain County Board of Education waive the requirement for first reading on these policies, and then revert policy 1710 to the July 28th, 2020 version, revert policy 1720 to the March 14th, 2022 version, rescind the interim policies 1725 and interim 1726, and adopt the July 28, 2020 versions of those policies.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands? Motion passes.
And Ms. Sitter, we're going to wait on the SRO MOU, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that'll come to you next Wednesday. Have I missed anything, anyone?
Got it all.
I recommend that the Swain County Board of Education approve the cartwheel contract as it has been presented to you this evening.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor by show of hands?
Thank
Passes
you, Mitch,
unanimous.
very much, thank you. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Check out all of the opportunities. Please note that your next meeting for, the next regular scheduled meeting will be March the 10th. We have a March 3rd combined meeting with Cherokee at the Cherokee Central Office. Some of us will be traveling tomorrow to Houston, Georgia. We're probably going to need to call committee meetings for construction next week because we have got to move on the CMAR and make a decision on that. That's all that I know of right now. Are there any other calendar events?
What time do we normally meet? 5? On the
Yeah.
10th?
You want to make it 5 on March the 10th?
Yeah, let's make it 5.
Okay.
5.
Yeah.
There will be a multitude of our Best and Then Some awards that night.
Yes.
Okay, and what I would like to put them throughout the meeting, but really we need to give our parents and the students the opportunity to not be here
Understood.
for some of that, okay? So we'll probably almost have a 2-part meeting, right?
What was that, on the 10th?
The 10th is the regular meeting, and there's going to be a lot of our Best and Then Some.
I got you.
We haven't had any for January or February.
Yeah,
Yes, so there'll be
okay.
a lot of
Okay.
them.
And they've been giving out all kinds of awards.
Do we need to
So.
start earlier? Or no, we're good?
Say that again?
We were thinking about whether we need to start earlier to allot about 30 minutes prior to, so be here.
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
If we do, here's the
But it rushes
concern.
them.
Here's the concern, okay? I just want you to think
After
about this.
school.
We're talking about parents and kids and parents getting off work,
Okay.
okay?
That's fine, we don't have to.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I'll do whatever you tell me to do, but that's a concern I have about that.
We'll just
okay?
do it at 5, that's fine.
We need to go to closed session to talk about a personnel issue and a land issue. So I think it's correct.
I make a motion for the Board of Education to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11 under subsection A1 and 5 to prevent disclosure of privileged or confidential information.
Do we have a
And
second?
We'll adjourn from there.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, by show of hands?
There are several documents to sign that probably we should get signed before we go
I'll wait.
to closed session. And one of those requires a signature from everyone. Okay?
That's what I do.